Mikaila, hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm feeling groovy like a smoothie. What's going down in your world?
I've been back in Australia for like a week now. I'm like, I think I'm just beating jet lag now. I think it's been a long one,
Yeah.
but I woke up at 7 and not 4 today, which is amazing. But
In-
yeah, no, that's yeah, and I got this song coming out tomorrow, but that's pretty much it. What about you?
Yeah, I've been in Australia for the whole year so far, hanging out with my dog. I have work tomorrow. Same vibes. Same vibes. How was the UK tour?
It was good. I mean, the tours were absolutely amazing. We had so many things go wrong. Like we all got COVID and then yeah, like had to cancel some other things and then like got sick again. And it was just kind of like there were these amazing highs and then there were these like absolute low of the low kind of things. So I definitely look at it as like a huge learning experience.
Yeah.
Um, it was amazing, but it was tough. But I felt like yeah, it was a big character building thing for all of us.
It's like, every good documentary has that dip in like the mood and it's like all the lows. Like that's just part of the rock star story.
I hope so. I yeah, yes, I think that you're right.
Well, let's talk about the positive stuff because you all did slam dunk. How
Yeah, so cool. Like I've always wanted to go to Slam Dunk. We were actually supposed to play it like the year that kind of COVID took over. So we were supposed to. It was a really nice moment for us to be like, we're here now. Like we finally made it.
Yeah.
And because we had been in the UK for like a couple of months, like it was like seeing the people that we had met along the way, kind of being there to watch us, and it was a very nice like full circle moment for us to be like, we've been touring here for months, and like this, like the crowds that we had were way bigger than we thought they were going to be. So, yeah, I felt like it kind of felt like everything kind of like paid off.
What's the dissonance in the vibe between a UK crowd and a crowd back home? Because like literally every Australian pop punk band that I can think of, it's like people over there are almost weirdly obsessed with Australian pop punk in particular.
I definitely think that it's like it's a thing. Like everyone's like, I remember the stage that we played on at Slam Dunk was like, everyone was joking saying it was the Aussie stage because like it was us and Stan Atlantic and Confidence and it's like between you and me. Yeah. So sorry, I'm like mind blanking, but yeah, so everyone was like having this joke saying, oh, it's the Aussie stage, and like I didn't realize like how much people associated pop punk and like Australia. And it's so funny because I feel like in Australia, it's like metalcore is the thing here. Like I feel like people don't really care about like pop punk as much as metalcore here. So I think it's funny that like you go to the UK and like we're known for pop punk over there.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the crowds and like the people and stuff, like it's so sad because I can't like the last show we played here was Unify in March, but before that, like we've done a couple of things during the pandemic, and I just like I miss like knowing what an Australian like show feels like. And I went to the Stan Atlantic show the other night, and I was at the Metro, and I was in there and I was seeing all my friends, and I felt like it was like 2018 2019 again, like, and it was the first time that I was like, oh, like this is what it is. And I think that pop punk fans and music fans in general are like, all the same no matter where you are. Like I feel like it's such a universal thing.
Yeah. It's the vibe. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, for sure. Did you all play many of the new songs on the run?
So we did the Against the Current tour playing, we played Lights On. That was the first time we got to play Lights On. But when we actually played, so funny story, like the Yumi at 6 10-year anniversary shows, they actually had someone pull out, and then Josh messaged me and was like, can you be at this show in like 2 hours? So we were like scrambling to get to Leeds so that we could play the show at the Umi at 6, like literally the day of, like we had 2 hours to get there. And we actually played Hallucinate for the first time there, and he features on the song. So it was very cool that we got to, play these songs for the first time, and we actually got to play Hallucinate at a Yumi at 6 show for the first time.
That would have been sick. what's the reception been like? Have you noticed like certain tracks or elements going down in surprising ways?
Um, do you mean like in terms of like certain songs or?
Yeah, like the new songs, because they're super different. Like, have crowds been like getting into them like in a different? Has it been like a different atmosphere? I guess.
Yes and no. I feel like that's one that I can really be able to tell like when we played them at home. But I guess in the UK, like we played the new songs and they had a really good feel to them. And I'm not sure if it's just because, maybe people that had checked us out before going to the show had maybe listened to those songs because they were the new songs or anything like that. I mean, High Hopes has always done like, really well for us no matter where we are. But like songs like Lights On to me was surprisingly like really fun to play. It's like my favorite song to play now.
Oh yeah.
But I'm really excited to see how people hear like, and that's why I was really looking forward to Full Tilt, because our EP was coming out and the next day was the first Full Tilt date, and I was really looking forward to that, and that's been cancelled now. But yeah, I'm interested to see how it goes here, because the new songs, it's funny, I find that like songs like High Hopes and Circles and stuff do really well, and then like our songs like, like Lights On and Walk Over My Grave that are darker as well do really well. So I think now the guys and I are kind of picking up that people tend to like the darker, heavier side of Yours Truly compared to like the really poppy and like happy side.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the songs themselves, because okay, here's the thing. Like, I know as a music journalist, I'm supposed to be your hype man for the next 20 minutes and say that everything's perfect. But I liked Self Care. I thought it was a solid album, but I also thought it was a very like safe, non-threatening to the status quo kind of album, which is why I fucking love this EP, because it's so just driving and like unafraid to throw caution to the wind. Where did that whole vibe come from?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I've had this conversation with so many people. I actually had this conversation with our producer Stevie the other day. So with Self Care, we kind of felt like it was like a rite of passage thing to record a pop punk album that was just, it was our debut album, and I guess we were very like, we want to do something that like, we want to do something that feels like basement but also feels like pop punk, and like we kind of had all like these these ideas of what we wanted to do, and it is a very like, it is a very standard like, it's just pop punk, there's, and that was what we wanted at the time. And then I think with this EP that we did, we kind of wanted it to be the companion to Self Care. It was almost supposed to be like the B-sides of Self Care, and we wanted it to be like the opposite side of like the concept of Self Care, but like not everything is amazing, like this is the darker side of like your innermost thoughts.
Sure.
And as we were writing, we were like, oh, it's just B-sides, like they don't actually like, like we don't have to put all this pressure on ourselves to write like 10 singles like we did on Self Care. Like on Self Care, we put so much pressure on ourselves. It was like, it needs to be like this, it needs to be like that, like we need to write these certain songs for these certain vibes. But for this EP, it was like, who cares? Let's have fun. Let's just write songs that we think are cool. And then the more that we wrote, and we even things like putting in breakdowns at the end, or putting in like, like different sounds, we were like almost joking about, I remember the end of like Hallucinate, I was like, let's just put a breakdown at the end of it. And then I remember everyone like laughing, and I remember us just doing it for the sake of doing it, but then actually listening to it and sitting back and being like, hold on a second, and actually like, let's just leave it, because it's just an EP. Like it's just, it's not even an EP, it's just a B-sides kind of thing. Like, people, it's just to kind of push Self Care again. Like, let's just have fun with it. I know it sounds horrible to be like, oh, who cares? But then it became something that we were like, no, we're actually really invested like in this project, and we no longer want it to be like Self Care's like, the songs that didn't make Self Care, the songs that weren't good enough for Self Care. And we want it to be like this whole other project. So I remember going to like UNFD and being like, so I know you said that you wanted 3 songs that kind of had this darker vibe Self Care, but we've actually got 7 songs that have nothing to do with Self Care. And they were like, okay, if that's what you want to do, then like we'll back you, kind of thing.
Was there ever a point where you considered sitting on it even longer and like turning it into your second album?
I mean, that was definitely a thought that we had, but I guess that it just wasn't it wasn't kind of like what we had agreed to with our label. So
Yeah.
as much as I would have loved for it to have been the album, it kind of was never what we agreed on. So I know the boys and I have had this conversation a million times, like this should have been the album. It should have, we could have definitely written a couple more songs. So we were so inspired, and but it just wasn't. Yeah, and I think also the cool thing about this though, now that I'm kind of looked at it like this, like we have an opportunity now to figure out where we want to go next.
Exactly.
Really, for the album.
I think there's a place for shorter bodies of work too. Like, I don't know if it's because I'm older or because I listen to so much music for work or whatever, but like as a kid, when a band would put out a super long album, I'd be like, fuck yeah, 15 tracks. This is the bare minimum. But now I'm like, thank fuck this album only has 10 tracks. So like an EP is perfect. I vibe it. I dig it.
Thanks.
So I guess another thing with the sort of like the growth between self-care and this record is you formed yours truly when you were a kid, basically. You were in high school, and like the way this band has evolved and the journey you've been on, do you feel like your growth as a songwriter and an artist has kind of come in tandem with your growth as a person?
Yeah, that's also really interesting because I love it. You're talking to me so many things that I have spoken about recently. I was actually at I was at Download a couple of weeks ago, and someone came up to me and they were like to me, "Oh, you're in yours truly. You have that one song." And then I remember I was with a friend of mine, and she's like, "Oh, High Hopes." And then I remember thinking to myself, I was like, "We wrote that song when we were teenagers, like,
Yeah.
first of all." And that song, the lyrics of that song, I wrote, like, I literally sang it into my phone because I needed to write a melody. And then I remember just being like, "Oh, they're fine, like they work." Like, and the thing is that, like, I didn't realize how much that song was going to do for us. And like, as much as I love that song, and I think, like, obviously, like I said, it's done so much for us. Like, I think that the way that we write now, and even like my lyrics now, are so much more thought out, so much more like, I feel like I'm a better lyricist, and I feel like, I'm a better lyricist now. So I look back to that, and I'm kind of like, I wish people would kind of like dig a little bit deeper into like the themes and like the lyrics of the new songs, because I feel like I have grown as a writer. And like you said, we were teenagers and stuff like that, and I think that we had this concept of what we had to be and like that kind of music that we had to write. And I feel like now we're kind of in a bit more of like a fearless place, because we're a little bit older now, and I think that we kind of see it a little bit less of we need to follow a certain thing, and just kind of like trust our own talent and our own skills and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that, but I also think that if I hadn't gone through all of that, it wouldn't have, made me grow, maybe learn. And I think it's like with anything, like the practice, the more you practice, the more that you keep doing things, the better that you get at it. So I think that everyone is kind of, never at their full, their full capacity. Like, people are always learning.
Yeah, for sure. And like, okay, so I think I'm drawing a mental blank, holy shit. No, I think it's definitely like palpable in the record that like you are more fearless, and you are like, you have a better idea of what you want to do with yours truly because of how you've grown. And I don't want to pry, totally feel free to shut me down with any of these questions, but like I'm reading about this record and the themes, and there's this bit in the bio where it talks about how like before you put this EP together, you were feeling pretty isolated and alone, and there was this sort of existential dread. How did you reckon with that through music?
I think that music is a form of like therapy, really, like being able to get things out. Like, I feel like I'm an oversharer. Like, I talk too much, and I feel like because I talk too much, I kind of, and you think that someone's an oversharer and talks too much should be able to convey their feelings and convey what they mean. But I feel like I often say the wrong thing, that I don't like, I feel it, but I can't say it in words. So I feel like being able to write these songs and being able to put them in almost like in a form of poetry almost feels like I went through this, and like being able to write about it and create something almost makes it feel worth it. And even though like I still have those feelings of like, and I'm feeling it now, like I got sick in the UK. I had to leave like pretty like urgently, and I had to leave like everything and everyone behind, kind of thing. And then I kind of had to like go through all this whole thing by myself of like kind of like, struggling with like, being unwell and like having to travel around the world by myself. And like, it's a thing that like feeling isolated and feeling alone is something that we're always going to, always going to go through, because you just never know what life's going to throw at you. So, but I kind of thought to myself while I was going through that, like, this is just another thing that I'm going through that, like, I don't really know how to convey into words of how I'm feeling, but like, maybe I'm going to be able to write about it one day and be able to put it like that. So yeah, it's just a big form of like trying to make myself feel better about it all.
Well, I guess when you're, like hitting strides as an artist and going on tours and doing all this cool shit, it can be kind of easy to get swept up in the excitement. And I know that's something you've acknowledged. You've described this record as being your dirty laundry and making it clear that like there's a whole person that exists outside of the cool photos of you screaming into a crowd. But especially in the pandemic and getting sick and having all of that swept out from under you, were you sort of forced to, I guess, sort of look at it all with a different perspective?
Hmm.
I feel like I've put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Like, it's interesting. Like in terms of after writing the EP, kind of like how I feel about it now, or kind of how I felt about it while we're writing the EP.
How you felt about it when you were writing the EP, like going from the self-care era and having all those huge tours and everything exploding to sort of back to square one sort of thing.
I felt like it was a very humbling experience. Like putting, like, I feel like for everyone, like everyone's lives got like put on hold, and I feel like everyone, like, I know for myself, so I can imagine that a lot of other people also experience this the same way, because I feel like humans just kind of, a lot of humans react in the same way. But I kind of felt like I didn't have any like worth to myself anymore, because I wasn't screaming out into those crowds, and I wasn't doing these amazing tours, and I wasn't doing those things. And then all of a sudden I realized, like, I'm home and I'm like, I don't have anything else. Like, this is it. Like, I literally like left high school. Like, I was already in high school when I was touring, and like I left school. Like, I never, like, I have my friends and stuff like that, but all my friends are through music. And so they were also going through a lot of the same things I was going through. But we, it's kind of like, I started thinking to myself, like, what if music never comes back and we can never tour ever again and we can never do this and stuff? And then like, what do I have? Like, I don't have anything else. And then I kind of started thinking to myself, like, am I worthless now because of this? Like, almost looking at myself in the mirror and being like, who am I? And like, and also like being on social media every single day and seeing people that look like they were doing so fine during it all, and then kind of being like, I wish that, like, but then I also feel like I was also pretending that I was fine through it, because social media is such a toxic thing that we don't portray ourselves. And that's something that I'm really trying to not do, is portray myself as something that is untrue. And that is something that I've definitely learned through all of this, is like, social media is this thing where we present our lives in a certain way to make ourselves look like we're like, doing really well and we're having an amazing time and you just want to be me kind of thing, right? And the thing that I've learned is, the more transparent that we are in our lives, I think the more that it makes people feel unashamed that their lives aren't going the way that they think everyone else's are, because no one's life is perfect.
Yeah. I love that yours truly really take a stance on, like, the whole it's okay not to be okay rhetoric, and really proving that, like, you can be not okay, but you can still do cool shit and do great shows. And even if you're sick, there's shit to look forward to. You got a sick EP coming out. The record fucking slaps. We should probably wrap it up here, but Mikaila, my dude, thank you so much for taking time to have a chat.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.